Hello there, welcome to the next chapter in the Strife and Grimbone walkthrough of creating a module in Foundry VTT for the Pathfinder 2nd edition game. As promised, this week we're going to look at creating quite a large area. This is the swamp, and we're going to look at the issues that arise therefrom. So I had just changed the name of this chapter to something a bit shorter, Sunken City, and we had got to the point where we had found the secret passage there that would lead to the swamp, and now we're going to create the scene. So we don't have any scenes yet for chapter 5. We'll add a folder . Make it manual so we can have it after chapter 4, and create a scene called swamp. And we will use a background that I've prepared from Dungeon Alchemist. Scenes, the swamp inside. Foreground is usually 10 feet up, and our grid will be the usual 150. No padding, and grey lines for the grid. So we'll have a look at that. Zoom out. So you can see it's quite a large area of watery bits and land bits, which we'll detail. And I called it Swamp Inside because two of these ruined towers, we'll be looking at the inside of them. But we'll have tops of the towers as tiles. That's the inside of that tower. So that brings us on to adding in these tiles. We can snap to the grid, and first of all we'll add a foreground layer as usual of walls and trees. So we have to do the select. Sometimes I got this wrong and I've been in selection mode, should be in create mode. Then select the folder for the browser, and if we're in, it looks like we're in scenes already. So this bit lets us zoom out more. Let's close that. There we are. And that snaps into place. So what I've done is the laborious task of cutting out all the ground level features. So I preserve the columns there, the walls there, the trees there, these little skeletons hanging on posts, rocks there, and of course these structures as well. So that if a character, who should we choose? Husk. There's a reason why we got him in. So Husk is going along, and see, there's something we haven't done yet. See the delay before it disappears. So we've got it fading. So we need to get it back onto the tiles one, double click it, get it onto foreground there, double click it, and then we need to take the tile opacity down to 0.85, overhead, never fade. Now, yeah. And the same will apply to features like the trees. So he's under the branches of the trees. That works. Next thing we need to do is add on some roof tiles. The walls I make exactly the same size as the overall map, so that you don't have to adjust the position, it just will go to the same positioning. However, it's much easier to cut out individual tiles for roofs, and you can save a lot of space. So this one is the swamp entrance tower. Oops, make sure you're in the foreground. Looks like that's snapped in nicely, but I'm going to just play around with the position. Maybe you shouldn't make it snap in. So shift, not sure that's any better, looks fine, but this is going to behave differently, this tile. We will have it fully opaque, but then fade the entire tile when you mouse over it, or when the GM mouses over it, or when a token is selected and is underneath it. The whole tile will fade, but we have a bit of occlusion, so they kind of have a bit of a cue that there is a roof above them. And we'll have restrict light and weather. I think that's done. So, find Hask. Where are you, Hask? Unless I deleted him. Yeah, I think he's gone. Okay, Valoros, you can come instead. So Valoros will appear underneath branches of trees, and you see the roof of the tower with a bit of a fallen column there in a slightly sort of ruinous condition, and as soon as you get in there the roof disappears, but there's just a faint outline of the roof. And I think what I'll do is I'll change the height, because it's make it 20 feet up. 20 feet. So it goes 10 feet up, plus 10 feet. He's still behaving like he's underneath. Feet up. He's now on top of the tower, on the battlement. And the same, get rid of him. And then the same with this tower. Add little holes in here in that I did in paint.net. Oh, let's hang on a minute. That's better. Okay, shift and drag it. That's fine. So these are a couple of holes here. You don't really see much, but they do actually reveal the ground underneath. That's the shadow, which is in the background layer. And likewise, we'll have it overhead, fade, 20 feet up, and a little bit of occlusion. Okay, so that's that for the tiles. Next thing is we'll do the walls. We'll have terrain walls with these broken columns. I'm pressing Shift and Control to get an accurate placement. And releasing Shift. No, I'm putting it back on again. Get it very accurate. So we're not careful, there's going to be a hole here. Let's check this. Proper shadow behind. Yeah. There's no split shadow, and she probably can't walk across. Well, no, she can't. Blocks. And I think we'll cut and paste that. Nope. Selection. Let's just check the properties. We don't want it to limit sound. Or even indeed light, because I may choose a diffuse light. And I think because they're small, I'm going to have no movement restriction as well. And I'm going to say the altar's a little bit lower. So we want a big wall here. By big I mean proper wall. One here. And then along the top. Okay. going to start on terrain walls. And then I think what I'm going to do is pause the video, because this is going to take a long time, as you can see, and you're all going to be incredibly bored. Okay, it's some time later, and now I've completed this Herculean task of putting terrain walls around the larger stones, the bottom of the cliffs. Here I have an open ruined tower with a one-way window, so that you can't pass southward, but because there's a slope up there you can easily pass northward. Gaps there. And here in this main building I decided to have a one-way wall, so that when you're outside you can't see the roof of the tower or beyond the tower, but obviously there's a compromise to be had, because when you're within the tower, if you are standing on the tower you don't want there to be any walls, but if you're within the tower you do want there to be walls. So I reached a compromise. So what this means is that with Valeros, let's reset the fog of war. So you can't see apart from where there's the entrance, unfortunately. And inside you can see beyond. If we had changed the elevation to 20 foot, you can see why. You want him to be able to see the expanse of the roof of the tower and also beyond the tower. Here my compromise was the opposite. There's a combat encounter within the tower there, so I had it so that when you're within the tower you're unable to move or to see out of the tower. So it's the problem of having two floors of building represented by one floor of walls. So we're just trying to find the best compromise. Anything else in particular? If you can see that I've done the terrain for all the larger features. So that's the walls. Now the lighting. So as I alluded to earlier, I wanted to have this swamp foggy and with limited vision. So we can easily make it foggy. Right click there and configure it. Go into Ambiance and have fog, which is fine. We could download the module which gives much more control over these effects, but I think this is a reasonable start, just using the Foundry core system. And then we can add a little bit of coloration by having a light. A very large light with a green colour. Choosing the right green. And pretty dark. Obviously no constraints of walls, and much less intensity than that. And maybe make it even darker. Maybe a bit more intense. We just want a bit of a greenish hue to colour everything because there's a greenish vapours. And we also want it not bright, and if it cover the whole area with dimness 300. That seems to cover the whole area. Let me see what the effect of turning it on and off is. Just give us a bit of a green hue to everything. Maybe even a bit darker. A bit more intense. And we don't want it at night time. So we want it between 0 darkness and 0.6 darkness. And that way when the time changes to night time, we lose the green light and it gets properly dark. And then bring it back to daytime. And we got the green tint. We can see that in Pathfinder the rules are that you can see an infinite distance away. But we don't want that. So for this scene, to configure it, Pathfinder specific rules based vision, we're going to disable it just for this scene. And I think we'll set a hearing range of 100 feet as well while we're at it. Just check that that's saved. Yep. And this means that when we take someone without a light, nothing's changed, but if we click their token and go into vision, previously we would have had vision enabled, vision range locked by the rules-based vision of Pathfinder, but now we don't. And I'm going to set a range of 60 feet through the fog. And we'll reset the fog of war. Oh, this isn't working. Let's check something. The problem is that I can't set the light, so we'll just have to accept the lack of tint. If I have the light here, it will just make everything lit. So now we are in the swamp. Configure it. Pathfinder disabled. We'll bring in a character with no vision. Select that character. Reset the fog of war. Now the character can see nothing. we go to their token, and then for this select their vision, see their vision range is 0. Previously it was superseded by rules-based vision, so we can change this now to 60 feet. And now the token can see 60 feet. Unfortunately, there's quite a hard cutoff. One thing we can do is when we're doing the lighting and the lighting, we can change the fog of war colour so that instead of it being darkness, we're signalling that it's fog. So we'll have it on green. So that it's easier to realise that it's the fog that's preventing everything. So you can see that the fog of war exploration I think I maybe set that green as well. Yeah, so we've got a green tint of the fog. If we go to another area, the tokens will behave as we expect, and the rules-based vision will take over, even if we would set 60 feet on this token. So what the GM will have to do is when they first come into this area, each character will have to have its vision set from 0 to 60 feet, so then it can see. It's going to be obvious. Because this character has a light, they're going to be able to see to the range of the light. Set their vision to 60. And they can see further. They can see in the range of their light, and they can see the range of the foggy vision. Have a character with dark vision. So we set the fog of war, and again its dark vision is now limited, whereas before it was infinite. Okay, so that's the walls, the lights, now the sound. So I'll choose an ambient sound to cover the whole area. No volume easing, not constrained by anything. Probably quiet, and I have a sound here. Yep, it covers the whole area. The sound there is a little bit loud, and then we'll have a watery sound as well. Gentle river, very quiet. Not sure if you can hear that, turn it down for a bit. You can hear it slightly. So that'll do the sounds. And that's the main bits of the area done, apart from the labelling. So we will go to the journal now. And we got to finding the sunken city, Grimbone quarry and a secret passage, and then we'll do swamp encounters. I'm describing a swamp there, but I think before that I'll have a description of the beast folk. Yeah. And maybe we'll do note on the beast folk. The illusion around the sunken city has kept the beast folk in for countless generations, as well as the world out. Untold years of infighting and inbreeding, trapped within the swamp, have brought the beast folk to the verge of extinction. But a strange balance has kept all the separate ancestral tribes more or less viable. They bear a distinct resemblance to various well-known humanoid ancestries, making a philosopher or sage wonder about the origins of different humanoids in general. Now that Nemo has unified these pitiful remnants of what was once a ferocious fighting force, they have adopted a hierarchy of sorts, based largely on physical strength. The toad folk, formerly giant toads bred to aid in the fisheries that supplied the ancient city when the swamp was a flowing waterway, are firmly at the bottom of this hierarchy. They are only permitted on the surface, which suits them fine, and in the underground stream ferrying metals to the ashwood. Ironically, they still work to fish the swamp and provide the rest of the beast folk with a fallback source of food. Next are the boar folk, formerly domesticated pigs, who forage on the surface and hunt for game. They are permitted in the underground chambers reclaimed from the swamp and the rubble, if only to keep a check on the dog folk, with whom they had the fiercest rivalry. The latter were formerly domesticated canines bred for war or to serve as guards. Now the dog folk are good only for the same thing, guarding the mines and the human slave miners. Finally, at the top of the hierarchy are the bull folk, former domesticated bovines, who now guard the guards and keep order by brute force. Most of the beast folk bear arms and armour of silver or meteoric iron. The same applies to tools and cookware. They have been considered base metals by them since Thessalonian times, because of the plentiful supplies from the mines. Coins are therefore of copper, gold or platinum. The beast folk do not speak Orcish, Knoll, or Boggart, etc. They know nothing of the culture of such ancestries. Instead, they speak a rough, ancient Thessalonian that has degenerated over the millennia, better to suit their coarse tongues. Recently, Nemo has been teaching them Common, Taldane, to help in managing the townsfolk slaves, and because of his secret dreams of taking his army out of the swamp and setting himself up as a local warlord in the wide world outside. Any given beast folk has a 25% chance of speaking a smattering of Common. So you've got an introduction there. And then the swamp. The swamp covers a large expanse of land. What is of relevance to this adventure is the northern section of swamp entered via the secret way from the Grimbone quarry. The party's journey leads them to the submerged tower, descending to ancient chambers, now converted into a beastfolk barracks. So we're there. And base of operations for Nemo. Below these chambers is a small section of the ancient mines recently discovered and reopened by Nemo. Elsewhere, the swamp is patrolled by wandering toadfolk and boarfolk, and plagued by pests and quicksand traps that lie in wait for those unfamiliar with the area. Let the PCs explore widely around the swamp if they really wish, but they might tire of the constant hazards and patrols. Eventually, they may discover an enclave or primitive village of one of the 4 beastfolk tribes, many of whom will be females and non-combatants. All these tribe folk know is that the warriors among them are billeted and guard the sunken city, and are now working for a great wizard, who will soon lead all the tribes to freedom beyond the cliffs. The enclaves are nearly a mile apart from each other, about as far as they can possibly be within the confined area. The toad folk have a village like the others, but they tend to be more spread out and consider most of the northern part of the swamp their territory, while of course permitting travel of other beastfolk groups under the command of Nemo. The whole swamp is difficult terrain, unless there are special circumstances otherwise, so if the slowest PC movement speed is normally 20 feet, in a minute the distance moved is not 200 feet but 100 feet, or 100 if half-speed exploration activities, but 100 feet and 50 feet respectively. Water areas within the swamp. So we'll edit this. The PCs should soon learn to avoid the water areas of the swamp. This is greater difficult terrain, and the above movement speeds of the swamp are halved again. For halfling-sized PCs, unless someone is carrying them, they must swim. PCs with a swim speed can swim through the waters at their normal swim speed. For each 10 feet square that the party first moves into, roll 1 DC5 flat check. On a fail, the party suffers the attention of a brood leech swarm. A patch of the water around, and this is a description here. Green. A patch of the water around you suddenly seethes and bubbles as if boiling from below, but there is no heat. Instead, you see that the bubbling is a churning, writhing mass of thousands of leeches moving towards you. Or for initiative at 30 feet, using the 10-foot square swarm's 9 plus 9 perception tremor sense. On the swarm's turn, PCs take 2d6 bleed damage. So we can have it here. Probably we'll also have it in the encounter. think that will work. So I'll change it to the other way around. Doesn't seem to mind, does it? I think that bleed is automatically persistent. For each of the swarm's actions, when the PCs are in the swarm and they suffer exposure to broodleech swarm venom, the swarm does not pursue on the drier land, but will pursue through the water at 20-foot speed, faster than the PCs can probably go. The swarms of leeches and other denizens of the swamp avoid the toadfolk. Lucky for them. So we'll have the here. Broodleech swarm. And we're going to need to have a picture for that, so bear with me and I'll do one just a second. So I have my image now. Find the right folder, tokens. So it was a swarm of leeches. Got it there, and tokenizer. And remove that one, and then just expand it a bit. Okay. And we'll just check that. Yep. Put it in creatures. It's done now. And reference there as well. So that's the kind of regular encounter if you go into the water. And then what I think I'll do now is random encounters in the swamp. I think for this I need to do a separate folder, don't I, or a separate journal entry, because each random encounter needs to be a separate page so they can be identified on the roll table. And the first one is a toadfolk patrol. it. So the toadfolk are familiar with the swamp and ignore difficult terrain here, and can swim at 25 feet through watery patches without fear of leech attacks. When they patrol, they are avoiding notice in a watery area near the PC's location. Use a single Quiet Ally stealth roll at +8 versus the best PC's perception DC. This is assuming that they're... Yeah, we're assuming that they're kind of the active party and the PCs are not the active party. I suppose with the wandering ones so they can... so when they're patrolling. Maybe we pick a time when the PCs are stationary. Use a single Quiet Ally as shall we make a reference to that? Stealth roll at +8 versus the best PC's perception DC. So they're making the stealth roll, just make sure that that's their stealth. Toadfolk. Where are they? I don't have them yet, that's why. Okay, let's make a toadfolk. So these are boggards, basically. But they're called something different. And I think we'll have the warrior. Yeah. Import that. And we'll edit this. And we're going to have it rare because it's a beast folk, not a and we'll just give it the boggart traits. Okay. And maybe they have a spiked club. Something looks a bit more spiky. Let's go for Morning Star. Yeah. Because of the picture I have, basically. And you go away. And make a attack out of that. What have we got here? So the when we're looking at their stealth, turn this one. +8, yeah. Because their stealth is +8 in water. So that's going to be right. We would just press that. Not very stealthy today. change their language to Thessalonian. And we don't want to melee at the club, and we don't want to throw with the club. Got the tongue, the morning star and the javelin. Give it an image. Because they're toad folk, we don't want to use the boggart image, even though we're kind of suggesting that boggarts might have originally derived from similar manipulations of animals' genes. What am I doing here? Yep, tokens. Okay, now you know why I chose the morning star. And tokenize them. So something greeny and swampy. That one. Okay. And we need to change the right. And how many of them were there? 4. So, what have I got here? So they all make a stealth roll at +8 versus the best PC's perception DC. If this is successful, they wait for the PCs to pass by, then launch a flight of javelins at 30-foot range against the rearward party members. Roll again for initiative. If a PC beats all the toad folk, on initiative and does not beat their stealth DC of 18, obviously, they hear a croak. Or water splash from the general direction of the toad folk but cannot localize it. So we're just handling a kind of a stealth ambush thing. Obviously, if their stealth roll was poor, the PCs will see them in the water before combat. After flight of javelins, one toad folk will employ a terrifying croak first, and each toad folk will select a different opponent by means of their tongue grab and focus attacks on that opponent. Any spared toad folk will stealthily try and circle around and flank, throwing the remainder of their javelins before closing with their morning star. okay. So that's that one done. Next one is a giant mosquito flyby. I think we can get them numbers. This giant 6-foot-long mosquito flies high, 100 feet overhead, looking for something. Let's say 60 feet overhead, because that's maybe 100 feet. Maybe the fog gets less dense as you go upwards. Looking for something large enough to make feeding on it worth its while. The PCs fit that description. The mosquito's first action would be to dive bomb a random PC directly below it at double speed, and then aim. I wonder if it's because they've got 50-foot speed, so that's why they're flying 100 foot overhead. Then aim for a proboscis attack, followed by blood drain. Then it will alternate flying up 25 feet, which is difficult terrain, and that's why it's half speed. Flying down, then again piercing, grabbing random PC and blood draining. So that's its routine. Now I need to create a mosquito. Giant mosquito. Import it. Drag it in. Give it a picture. Okay. Check how it looks. Yep. Oh, level 6. I suppose that's okay, yeah. So they could be 3rd, 4th level, and this would be a tricky encounter for them. There are 2 encounters now. There's something that's been annoying me here. The sphere doesn't have an image. I've got a lot of tokens. And Assassin Vine Ambush is next. This vine lies mostly buried in the swamp muck. Its 10-foot long vines, snaking out just under the surface in all directions, waiting to strike when a humanoid or other large prey moves within range of its vines. Roll stealth at +11 at its 30-foot tremor sense range for initiative. Its main body looks like a rotting tree. I don't think we need to do that. I think what I've done is because I got a picture that looks like that. I don't think we need that. It will wait for a PC to approach within 10-foot range before striking and grabbing with a vine. It will focus on that target thereafter, simply continuing to constrict until its hold is broken, at which point it repeats on a random PC within range. That's its combat tactic. And we're going to use the standard piezo image here. Where it is coming out of a tree trunk, but never mind. There we are there. And shall we populate the roll table? So we'll copy one, shall we? Swap random encounters. What are our rules for roll every 10 minutes? Okay. You may wish to change this. Well, every 10 minutes, typically 100 10-foot squares of movement or one short rest. On a 1 on a d10 an encounter occurs, roll d6 for the type of encounter. So a tenth of the chance of one of them, so we'll have it going up to 60. 6 chances of monsters, and then well, 56, well, approximately 60. 1d60. So as if you can edit these. And then we just have to add them in. So we go back to the journal. Yep. So we'll get rid of that one, that one. Keep no encounter. A 1 to 1. Then 2 to 2. Three to 3. That seems to be working. Let's make some more random encounters. A fen mosquito swarm. A large 10-foot diameter cloud of high-pitched buzzing insects hovers 30 feet away. There we are. There's the image. Keep it like that. Okay, that's fine. And next one, Shambler hunt. And we know who's hunting who if it's a Shambler. One of these days I won't do a capital O. This Shambler is hungry and out hunting without stealth rather than waiting in ambush. The PCs will see a huge mass of rotting vegetation on stumpy legs lumbering across the landscape. Roll initiative at an encounter distance of 60 feet. That's the fog range. It can swim at 20 feet, but its heavy body means that on land it is as encumbered as the PCs. 20 feet, extra 5 feet cost per 5 feet. Shambler. Shambler troop. Ooh, what's that? Oh, this is zombie Shamblers. There's Shamblers and zombie Shamblers. Is that a zombie? Creature level 6. Yeah, that's the one we want. This is standard piezo image. It's obviously going to be green. You have to fill up the token because it's big. Okay, inside the Shambler is its treasure. So we should do a treasure actor. The one wandering monster with the treasure. Okay, and obviously we should choose the Shambler image, shouldn't we? Maybe we just give put the items on the creature. Yeah, we have that system, don't we? Let's just do that. Creature, Shambler treasure. Right, inventory. We want a seven gold pieces. We want 4 spell strike bullets, second level. What should we choose as a spell to put on them? I'll just have a think about this. Okay, so I had the usual remaster memory loss. So Shocking Grasp got replaced by Thunderstrike, but we want a second level one, and Sudden Bolt is ideal, like the electricity theme for a Shambler. So let's add in Spell Strike. Spell Strike Ammunition type 2, I'm thinking, because it's second level. And how many of them were there? 4. And let's edit this. If I get to the bottom, I don't think anyone's going to read it. I want to say it's already got okay. And 4d12 electricity damage, so it's a nice emergency use. Big damage for some ranged character, which they often need. And Alchemical Bomb of Moderate Bottle Lightning, continuing that theme. So Bottle Lightning. There, got it. So that'll appear on the creature's token when it's dead, and I have the PC workbench or tool belt, whichever one it is, that allows PCs to loot dead NPCs by clicking on their tokens. That's the Shambler done. And then the last one, we The old grey ooze pool. This ooze lies in wait, masquerading as a shallow pool of swampy water. Selecting this encounter means that the lead PC has stepped upon it, triggering its puddled ambush reaction pseudopod strike. Then the ooze pops into an adjacent space, and initiative is rolled, the ooze using stealth at +12. You don't want to hear me sneeze. A line, please. Another line, please. A grey ooze. No. Remember American spelling. Import it. Practical monster manual bestiary in or bestiary, as people like to call it. People who are less smugly superior to me. Tokenizer. Interesting color choice. I remember watery color. And we'll change that to that sort of look to it. Yep. Yep. Right, let's review these. Torchfoot Patrol, giant mosquito flyby. Yeah, I thought I'd done that. And at least one. Get rid of the double title. Assassin Vine Ambush. Fen Mosquito Swarm. Shambler Hunt. Again. Grey ooze. And then we'll go to our roll table finally. And the first three, add that one, that one, that one. Fen Mosquito Swarm is 4. 4 to 4. 5, 5, and 6 to 6, and 7 to 60. Okay, we'll test that out. No encounter, unsurprisingly. Got a 43. Unsurprisingly, let's change this to 1d10 because we don't have all day. A giant mosquito flyby, we click on that, got our encounter ready, and drag it in as quickly as that. Now we're going to change it back to 60, otherwise the PCs won't be happy. With random encounters, I use them flexibly. I use them if I want the party to get up a level. For example, if they're still 3rd level, and I want them to be 4th level for this encounter here. Once they get into there, I will give them a few more. If I can sense that the PCs are a bit bored and just want to get on with it and they're leveled up, I might just have one random encounter or even none. So that's the swamp and its random encounters. We're going to do the keyed encounters next time, and probably soon get into the underground chambers. So thank you for your attention, and speak to you next time. Bye.